This is the Haval H6 GT, and it just might be the best value mid-size SUV you can buy. This is Four Wheels and a Seat, the channel where you can see new cars reviewed every week. And my name is Alex Dalrymple. Thank you for joining me, and have you hit subscribe? If not, can you please do that for me and give me a like as well if you enjoy the video. Built on the same platform as the regular H6, but managing to look totally different almost, the Coupe is a car that attracts a lot of attention, even if it's just because you don't see many of them on the road. And Haval have thrown everything at this car and still managed to keep the price down. The front end of the H6 GT looks completely different to the hybrid version that I reviewed at the end of last year, where that car looked a bit like a Peugeot. This one looks like a Toyota Yaris Cross on steroids. I think the only thing that really might carry over are the headlights, but even they could be different. I'm not entirely sure, but it's quite a wide car. You can see that this is no compact SUV. The only detail I don't particularly like is the plasticky fake carbon fiber down the bottom here that doesn't feel much like the real thing when you touch it. But other than that, it's a good look. Side on, and you can see that this car is actually a pretty decent size. Gone are the garish chrome highlights found in the hybrid model, and instead we've got black highlights, if that actually makes sense, with black plastic around the wheel arches here and shiny black roof rails on top. We've got a panoramic sunroof, and I really like the coupe shape here. It's very European, broken up with a spoiler up on top here, and these wheels that are finished in a nice shiny piano black, they're further highlighted with fluorescent green brake calipers, which when you say that doesn't sound so good, but here it actually really works. Looking at the rear end of the H6 GT, I just realized this car has actually not one, but two spoilers. You've got the one up here on top and another lip spoiler here. Overall, I think the rear end design is actually pretty good. The only thing I don't love, again, is this plastic fake carbon fiber here, which looks okay, just don't touch it. And we've also got two fake exhausts there, which I don't know why they didn't plumb the real exhausts through to them, because the exhaust here actually makes a pretty good sound in race mode. Powered tailgate to reveal a disappointingly small boot. It's only 392 litres, which is a full 200 litres less than the regular H6. Knock down the rear seats and you can buy yourself an extra 1,000 litres of space. Under the bonnet, we've got a 4-cylinder 2-litre turbo that outputs 150 kilowatts of power and 320 newton meters of torque. In this top spec Ultra model, power is driven to all four wheels via a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Haval market this car as a 4-wheel drive. It's really an all-wheel drive. You're not doing any hardcore off-roading in this. Fuel economy averages at 8.4 litres per 100 kilometres on a combined cycle. Unfortunately, the first thing you notice when you get into the H6 GT, especially if it's been locked up for a while, is the smell. It smells really strongly of plastic in here, and not in a new car good kind of way, in a chemical kind of this is burning my nose hairs sort of way. It's gotten better as the week's gone on, as I think the air conditioning has kind of flushed it out a bit, but you do notice it quite strongly. The interior design though is pretty much exactly the same as the H6, which I reviewed last year. So we've got soft touch material up on top here, some sort of soft-ish faux carbon fiber that could be a little bit softer here in the middle with some stitching on it, textured plastic here, and on the door panels again more soft touch materials. So look, all up, it's an attractive design with a nice mix of materials. This top spec Ultra model gets a larger 12.3 inch infotainment screen that runs the same software as the regular H6, which is a bit different to the software you'll find in pretty much any other car. I mean, look, it does everything, but it can be hard to find things with basic functions sort of buried within menus within menus. There's very few physical buttons in here that you'll actually use, so to pretty much do anything you've got to go through the screen, but that's not an uncommon problem in most new cars these days. We've got also Apple CarPlay and Android Auto built into this system. However, there is no native navigation and no digital radio. The sound system is not very good, to be honest, but it does have DTS built in, and it sounds much better when that's switched on so just leave it on as much as you can. There is a row of shortcut buttons down here, mostly for the air conditioning. I don't think I've actually touched any of them the week I've had this car because, well, you can't adjust the temperature, you can't adjust the fan speed, you've got to do all that through the screen, which is fine, but these buttons are mostly useless. Wireless phone charging underneath that, and then the lower console here with cup holders. This is something that Haval does very well actually, and it's the rotary dial for the gear change. And I love it because you can just throw it around to change gears. You know, there's no sort of end point. It just spins and spins and spins. And when you're doing a 3-point turn, that actually is pretty good. A good size center console bin here. Head-up display in front of the driver, and the instrument cluster here, again, same as the regular H6. There's a couple of different display themes you can cycle through and a few other little bits of information. I like the power output dial here that kind of dances around like some sort of heart monitor, and I like the rotating earth and the space theme. The steering wheel I don't like very much at all. It's very thin and I just don't like the feel of it. The buttons are kind of fiddly to use. We've got cruise control down here on a separate stalk, paddle shifters on the rear of the wheel, and the indicator stalks, again, just a bit fiddly to use. This layout just doesn't work for me. The other thing that's not so great are the seats, which is a shame because that is, after all, where you spend most of your time. Look, they look fine. I mean, they look good with this suede on top and the GT stitching there, and they're heated and ventilated, and there is a fair amount of electric adjustment available for the driver and front passenger, plus lumbar support as well, but the seating position is just not great at all. I mean, the lower cushion will not tilt upwards at all, so my legs are just kind of hanging here in the middle, and it's just not a comfortable position to be in. You really don't want to be going on a long road trip in this car if you're my sort of size. That's a shame. But the actual visibility out of the car is actually really good. I can see right to the front of the enormous bonnet there. Looking through the rear vision mirror, because of the coupe shape, we've got a tiny little window back there that you're not really seeing anything out of there with the high sill, so you'll be relying on the cameras a lot, which is fine because there are cameras dotted all over the car. We've got a 360 above down view, and you can also rotate around the car in that way. Whenever you turn the steering wheel to the left or to the right, as if you're going around a corner, the cameras automatically turn on, and they really do make a big difference with visibility, so you'll be relying on those a lot, which is actually quite a handy feature. I think the happiest people in a Haval H6 GT are going to be those sitting in the back. They've actually got it pretty good because there is an absolute stack of room back here. I'm 190 centimeters tall, and behind my own seating position, nowhere near the seat in front of me, I've got loads of foot room too, loads of headroom. Despite the coupe shape, it's not really impacting on that at all. We've got two USB-A chargers back here, and the panoramic sunroof is keeping everything nice and light. Armrest with cup holders. The only thing I might criticize is just, again, same as the front, the lower cushion here is just a bit too low, and it's not really supporting my legs at all. So again, on a long trip, you might get a little bit uncomfortable, but I think actually the back seat's better than the front. Well, one of the first things I noticed, especially driving this car in the wet, is that the all-wheel drive performance is predictably much better than the front-wheel drive only version of this car, which was prone to a lot of wheel slip. The front-wheel drive hybrid version of this car has, according to Haval, 500 and something Newton meters of torque, which seems a bit excessive. This one's only 320, so it's a bit easier to live with. But it does feel very compliant and confident on the road. The suspension is still not very good, especially when it comes to potholes and speed humps. It gets unsettled and also a little bit noisy. There are several drive modes that for the most part just really affect the amount of torque delivered to each of the four wheels: normal, sport, eco, snow, race and sand. The only one that I've really noticed a massive difference with from normal is race, which actually opens up the valves in the exhaust and makes a bit of a nice noise. It also makes the accelerator quite touchy and firms up the steering a little bit, although you can change the steering mode yourself if you like, between comfort, sport and light. I like it in sport all the time. It just adds a bit of extra weight and a bit more feeling, because in light it is very light. But beyond the noise and the touchiness of the accelerator, there's not really a big difference between race mode and normal mode. In fact, calling it race seems a bit funny because I really can't bring one of these out to the track. This car has a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, so it's full of safety gear. You don't have to worry about it from that point of view. There's cameras dotted around all over the place, as I mentioned, and they really help with parking and going around corners and stuff like that. There's cyclist and pedestrian detection. In fact, the cyclists who are in front of me now, who probably really shouldn't be because we're about to head onto a motorway, I wish I wasn't detecting them right in front of me, but it's a Sunday. All sorts of weird things happen on the roads on Sundays. There's also lane keep assist, which will nudge you back into the lane, especially when you're on a freeway. Look, I don't mind it. I think it's fine. Some people hate it. I think it's all right. But yeah, driving in race mode right now. We're in third gear. The engine is pretty well revving its head off at 3,500 RPM, and we're not really going anywhere particularly quickly. Driving around the city on a Sunday is the actual worst. It's true what they say about Sunday drivers. I'm sorry. All right, this car also has automatic parking, so why don't we give that a go and see how that works. Okay, so auto parking. Okay, release the brake, parking start. Please notice surrounding environment. Okay, here we go. Ooh, that didn't sound good. Please just release gas pedal. Brake recovered, confirmed to continue. Yes. Okay. Auto park, please. Oh, hang on, now it's going forward by itself. And it's stopping. And it's put itself in reverse. Oh, this is weird. This is a bit more intense than most other systems I've used. Wow. Oh, we're getting close to that. No, it's okay, we're all right. Okay, now what's it doing? It's going forward by itself. No, please stop, please stop, please stop. Oh. Wow, it did it. That was creepy and cool. Now, whilst automatic parking systems are great and they're a kind of cool feature, it's just quicker to do it by yourself. It's really not that hard. If you can't parallel park, what are you doing driving? But to find this level of functionality in a car this size at this price point, it's pretty rare. The Haval H6 GT Ultra ticks every box in terms of what you can want a mid-size SUV to do around town. But you do get what you pay for. It does everything, but just not quite as well as some of its more expensive rivals. So while it is really good value, there are definitely better SUVs on the road.